Okay, everybody, welcome to this June meeting of the Hanmer Springs Community Board. Health and safety briefing. In a case of an emergency, please leave the building by either exit and assemble on Mary Avenue. We don't have any apologies today, but Michael Malthus is attending by Zoom and he'll just be a little bit late. Do we have any announced urgent business? Nobody else has, just need to let you know that about a fundraiser coming for the helipad at the health centre. So I'll let you know due course about that. And any conflict of interest, Tom?
Yeah, I'm employed by Hanmer Springs School.
Right.
So there is an item there about the school that I can't, I'll have to sit back from.
Okay. Right. All of that out of the way, we'll go straight into our presentation from you, Rob. Thank you.
Presentation.
Come and chat to us.
So I guess it's, if you want to know really, just from a policing point of view, was probably the main concern, Tom, from the discussion we had.
Yeah, I think it was just sort of bringing that private conversation that you and I had and you and I had with Mari as well, is just is bringing that out into the open and putting that out in public that we have discussed it and we're looking for possible solutions and how we can possibly best address it.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's not really, there's no real solution, no golden egg for this. Hanmer is unique in that it's isolated and it's a holiday town and everything, but we are lucky, I think, that we have got Tim and Dave up here and got a real vested interest in the township, and just walking around town getting some hot tips before and everyone saying hi to Tim. So that's great, and that's what we want to see.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's really positive. They do need time off, and that weekend in particular that the incident sparked from it was sort of a coincidence, or it does happen that they both had the weekend off. That happens, illness, injury, being in town anyway, working. And then we've got, of course, the highway guys, Tom and Andy. So that's a real bonus too, I think, for Hanmer. And they're both pretty keen to help out when they can. And yeah, apart from that, really, it's getting other stations to help the Colwoodans and Waikarys and Amberleys, Tibet. And of course, there's the distance with that. It is a long way, and that's just how it is. That's rural policing, living rurally. I don't know whether some of the community have a bit of a expectation that they deserve or should get a better service, but we can't have more policemen up here. That's not going to happen. Police won't. It's probably, there's a review going on at the moment that we know about, but we don't know how that's going to look yet. So it could be worse rather than better. It's certainly not going to get better as far as more numbers go for Hanmer or Perenui. So that's something to keep in mind as well, I guess. But yeah, there's no, as they keep telling us, there's no one else coming. You probably remember that from the old days. Yeah.
Even though the number of visitors is so high, we are not really a rural village. At weekends, your Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and school holidays and public holidays, we are not really a village because we have that many visitors. Wouldn't that number of people warrant looking at the staffing in the village and perhaps providing more?
It's not really looked at on strictly like a visitor population thing. It's more about your crime rates really, and reported crime and victimisations is a thing they really go off. How many burglaries, how many assaults, that sort of thing is what staffing levels are based on and what responses are based on. It's always been a bugbear of mine that it is based on that, because rural policing is quite different. like you say, it's quite different with the fluctuating population, holiday makers, etc. But you probably, yes, there are problems with holiday makers, but not majorly. They don't impact you. You don't have a lot of rising crime with holiday weekends and things. It's one or two stag do's and things like that.
Yeah, we can preempt those and speak to them on their way in, and generally they're really responsive. I just spend a bit of time with them and say, have a good time, please no glass on the streets. But you'll notice we do get the street signs. That's quite frequent. It's impossible really to police it. But sometimes the more people in Hanmer, the less there is for police to do. It's interesting how it works, but the people that come here are so, I don't know what the right word is, but they're very, very well behaved. We're not getting the people in your suburbs and Christchurch responsible for crime and stuff like that. So we're very, very lucky. We do try, and Dave and I, we do report as much crime as we can to keep those stats up. But we're limited by people actually committing crime, and Hanmer's pretty lucky. Very, very lucky. I came from Waimate, and it's absolutely feral down there. And the population of Waimate, I think it's less than Amberley, and they've got more staff, so I don't know how that works, but yeah, I think we're pretty lucky here, really. Whether it's luck or whether it's just our community, difficult to tell, but people contact us all the time, giving us little bits of information, and you cannot commit a dishonesty offence here and get away with it. There's cameras, we can stolen caravans, it might take some time, but we always get a result.
Yeah.
Whereas in town, that doesn't happen. So I think the community is pretty lucky, just in terms of getting resolutions. But there's always going to be one or two occasions when we can't deal with something.
How can we as a community best support you and support the police and support the community when things aren't quite what we would like them to be? What would be the best way to deal with that? Do we want community patrols revived? Do we want maybe private security at peak times? Do we want some selected individuals who may be able and willing to help in that situation? Or how could we best support you and help you?
I mean, the community patrols and security, they've got limited powers as far as stopping someone doing something, eyes and ears, and then and that's great. And I think you've got that already, haven't you, Tim, to a certain extent, without having patrols.
Yeah. With technology and stuff, there's not a lot that happens that we don't know about.
Yeah.
Well covered. I think that's township with cameras. And your security is pretty good anyway, in helping out with different things, what I understand, and some of the door people on the pubs and things.
I think the community is doing it. I don't think there is anymore. Not that I could ask for anyway.
Have you got interest in someone starting?
No, well, it was just, that it was on that particular day when we had the gentleman concerned causing issues and causing problems mainly in the village and in the CBD, so to speak, that people were feeling a little bit impotent and not able to do things. And then late afternoon, early evening, when he was down on Woodbank and trying to get into the bed and breakfast place there. And then people were saying, "Oh, he's moving," and sort of living nearby, I thinking, "Oh, it's my road next." He's gone from Woodbank to Lockheed, and you're thinking, "Oh, well, And then that's my neighbours who are.
But that's fantastic that they were, the community was keeping an eye out and tracking him and providing all that information. But it's also a little bit dangerous on Facebook, which I believe was posted all over and following. We don't follow Facebook and won't be, because some of the information in there is a little bit over exaggerated sometimes.
Yeah.
And a little bit hyped up. So
Yeah, I think that,
with the information or the community takes from that.
yeah, I think that the Facebook posts fell into two camps. You know, one was over the top. You know, the pitchfork and shotgun brigade, dog box, that sort of thing. We accept that is, but then there were other members of the community who got their big four-wheel trucks out and were following him around and you know, making sure that he knew that they were aware of him, and I think that probably helped as well, didn't it? You know.
Yep.
So there was spontaneous response by well-meaning.
Yeah, I mean, and that's great, but it's a bit like the new laws around citizens' arrests and things, and if things have gone wrong, and he was a nutter with a knife or a gun, things can go really bad. So you just need to be careful that way. And you know, the civil jobs that did get reported to police that day, they triaged them in the comm centre, and then also the district command centre, where they make the call where the rural staff get called out. So it's a new tactical response model, TRM model, and so it's all put through the mixer, and they come out with the best response they can see from the knowledge they have in town and the information they're receiving. And the nearest on-call unit was Waikato, I think, that weekend. And they would have come if it had been serious enough for the people in town to make that call with the information they had. But they didn't send them and left it till the following day. It was followed up on Dave, were you followed up on it?
I don't remember now.
Yeah.
So much has happened since then.
Yeah, it does.
So yeah, it does get triaged and does get the appropriate response from what the information they have.
I think the community, sorry, I'll get this conversation here a little bit. But I have been talking to a lot of people about it. I think several things. First of all, that I asked for a reasoned response from the community as to what would do best. That went down incredibly well. And the fact that we've had conversations, the fact that Mari was involved and I was involved and you were involved, and we had these conversations, and I've shared that information with the community. And they were really, really impressed and grateful for that it wasn't just going to be brushed under the carpet and totally ignored, that we've actually talked about it, we've discussed it, we've looked at options. And I think, you know, that has gone down tremendously well, that liaison and discussion.
Yep.
And the fact that there may not be a solution.
No.
And it is a rarity. We just happen to have had two this year, and we are similar.
Yeah. And I mean, you're going to get more. There's no two ways about it. It's going to happen again.
Alice's question.
Also,
Alice. You're on mute. Radio.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know whether I missed that. When Rob was talking about it, so did you say that this guy was triaged under this new system, or that's what would happen in the future?
The information, there was like several jobs that came into the comm centre, and each of those was triaged as they came in with the information being provided by the caller.
Oh, okay. So no contact was made with him. Sorry, I was misunderstanding.
No, I don't know if we even knew who it was at that stage, or I think actually Dave dealt with him the day before.
yes, yeah.
Trying to give him a
They
ride.
spoke to him in Culverden, yeah.
Past the Hanmer turn off. He wasn't very friendly with the police, so to speak. Told us where to go.
I also think part of the problem was every time somebody phoned, there was a lack of him committing an offence.
Yeah.
He was being annoying, abusive, but in terms of an offence, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know what he was doing. So,
And that sort of thing, it is different up here, but it happens all the time in town. And so in getting that information in town to the responses, they probably wouldn't even send a car in town to that stuff. Just, you see it when you're in Christchurch, there's idiots like that around everywhere. But it probably was you know, the community up here don't see a lot of that. That's why it probably caused a bit more of a stir.
Thank goodness.
Fair to say, probably a very low tolerance level to misbehaviour and
Which is good.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think to be fair as well, I think if we actually look at the whole picture, you know, one of the reasons for coming to Hanmer was that he wanted a job. He was looking for work, and
Yeah, I think
he was knocking on or going around the shops and cafes looking for jobs. You know, he knew that he was in a bit of a mess and he was in a fix, and so he knew that. And I met him out here, and he was nice as pie. Didn't say any word, wasn't offensive or anything else like that.
Yep.
Just said good morning, and just he was just sitting out the door here using the free internet. You know.
And with mental health and drugs, you know, those two cocktails. It's,
Yeah, we've moved away from mental health there as well.
yeah,
And change from 1 minute to the next, though, can't it?
absolutely, yeah. But yeah, as you know, police are pulling away from mental health, so our response is even more guarded, especially going through comms. They will really ask the questions: do we need to respond? Is this a mental health response? Give them the lifeline number so they can deal with health rather than police. So that's a real thing, and we, you know, probably less response sometimes, and less there's a danger to people or property. So it's just the way we're going.
I think we're quite lucky here. We're very lucky to have two permanent staff here who are part of the community and will do anything for the community. Now, I rang up Tim the other day when I was walking over Conover Hill. There's an old guy in the rain sitting covered in a blanket on the other side of Conover Hill. Now, I rang up Tim, didn't have to do anything. I could just walk past him. But Tim was fantastic. He said, okay, we'll do this, we'll do that. Then he got back to me and said he'd been told from Kaikoura is walking this way. So I left him there, sitting there, because he just didn't want to move. Soaking wet. And as I was walking round and came up, he's walking down Akron Heights. So I rang up to him and said, no, it's fine, he's out. But you're not going to get that in Christchurch. I think we don't understand how lucky we are. And I think that's one of the big things in a small community. We're lucky to have two good policemen.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
police here are very lucky to have a community like yourself and others that support them, and you've got that community watch already.
Yeah.
You know, and that's really important. Nathan, you absolutely in there, and the fire guys, Pickens and Ambo, such a good relationship with them and the rest of the community. So it's pretty impressive, actually, the whole community, I think.
When are we likely to get the report regarding the possible restructuring of police in Hurun? Because it was supposed to be out at the beginning of this month, and we are now near the end of the month.
This century.
This Christmas or next?
The only thing I can say is that Peter Cooper had an appointment with me booked for last week, I think it was, but that was cancelled and postponed till July. But I was just looking at my diary, but I think it's also been postponed. So I guess it's once we can hold on to what we've got,
there's a few fish hooks and delays, and it's political. It's so I'm not guessing anymore. I'll wait till we get something concrete. That is the concern, though.
Alice?
Yeah. Okay, sorry. I was just going to say, agree with what Chris was saying about the police in Hanmer. Definitely, I mean, there's been certain things that have, crimes that have occurred that the police wouldn't have attended or wouldn't be able to solve if it were in the middle of Christchurch. And I know from that point of view, I'm probably having shops of my own. I know you guys have really helped out with shoplifting, so all praise to the police in that. But I am interested to know what will happen in the future with mental health. Say if that guy had drawn a knife or had become really riled up, where would we go in future? What would happen? How would this unfold in the future?
Pretty simple. Just ring 111. and if he's got a knife or being violent, someone would have come. And it would have taken a wee while, but we would have come on that particular day. And even if it was, say it was a firearm or a knife and he was being really violent, I don't want my staff going by themselves to those sort of incidents either. So
No.
they would have had to wait for backup, unless circumstances dictate they had to act at the time. But yeah, so we've got to look after our guys as well. Backups a big thing that I want to see in town as well. They'll make sure someone's assisting before you go into serious risky jobs.
So though it's now more under mental health system, it's still through the 111 and triage that way. So pretty much as it was the other week then.
Yeah, we'll still come if there's violence involved and it's mental health. We'll still come and make it safe. We'll always do that. Police will always do that. We're not just hanging up our hat on any mental health stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, just so rest assured, we're not abandoning people when there's violence going on.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, if I may add to that, this very topic came up to a recent Together Haranui meeting, where Peter Cooper spoke at that meeting, and if I can describe it in layman's terms, he talked about if it's a 111 call and the caller says it's happening right here, right now, police will respond as they would always do. But if there was a caller and the triage system said, is it happening right now? And they say no, but it is happening, and they will get the best service to support the family harm or the mental health support system. So, it's about actually making sure that the best service is provided as long as it's not happening right here, right now. Have I described it fairly from your perspective?
Yeah, and there's two, like triple ones for right here, right now.
Yeah.
105 or visiting your police station, or online is the non-urgent way of reporting stuff. But yeah, we'll still come.
Yeah.
Always.
Anybody else? Well, thank you. We're in changing times, aren't we? We'll look forward to seeing what happens in the future, but we, within our little local community of the Amuri anyway, the word gets out, you can't get in and out of Hanmer without having your photograph taken, or you meet the big boys out in Molesworth. But beyond that, we can't really control outsiders coming in and creating the situation. But in terms of how bad it is, we're pretty fortunate. So long may we keep our local constabulary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
I think the high standards and expectations that we have here do help with I don't want to say lack of crime, but the lack of particular people.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with having those high expectations, because it certainly helps us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah,
The information they needed.
Okay.
So thank you so much for giving us the time to come today.
No problem.
Really appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Leave you to it.
Thank you.
See you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to flick back now to the minutes from the previous meeting, which I wasn't here for, but we'll whip through them anyway.
Madam Chair, sorry, I just need to leave the meeting for about 5 minutes and I'll be back.
Okay,
Thank you.
so for
Madam Chair, I'm also on Zoom now, so I'm checking in.
thank you, Michael. Yep, that's great. So you're there. So for matters of accuracy, on the previous meeting, page 4 and 5. And 6 and 7. Okay, so any minutes arising from that? On page 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, Would someone like to nominate those as securing our credit record of the previous meeting that was here by Hanmer?
Yeah, I was here on.
Chris? Stacey? Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll move on to today's business. The Foursquare and Cherry Trees report and what is to happen there. So I'll take that as read. Is Stan going to speak to us on this one, do you know? I'm actually not sure. Judith?
So I messaged him about 15 minutes ago and said, are you joining? And it's replied.
It's pretty thoroughly written up. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think give it a shot.
I mean, the Rob's recommendation is that we, is pretty obvious there. And is there anybody who wants to discuss any of that? Save Judith having to go through it.
Can I make a comment here?
Yes, Michael.
Firstly, I didn't get a hard copy of the agenda today, but I've read it online. In respect to the Foursquare and the removal of trees, we've got a price from what I recall by our local staff of around $2,500. And then it goes on to speak of what may be the potentials of putting various other types of structures and plantings there, which, if I recall, is something to the extent of about 32,000. Is it possible that we have an undertaking, firstly, to look at what can be done by our own staff, and then discuss what is potentially a replacement there? Are you following what I'm talking about?
Yes, yeah, I am. So rather we could reduce the 32,000, Chris.
I'd add that too. I would clear the trees first and fix the hole, then go and look at it.
Yeah.
We're too early to be looking at it.
That's what we decided last time as well, wasn't it? You know, just to do this job.
Just do that.
And then
and then beautify the area.
have we think about what goes next?
Yeah.
Through the chair again, that's where I'm coming from as well. I think we do away with the trees and reseal the footpath or whatever is involved. But I'm somewhat concerned that if we were to spend quite a sum of money in how to put a replacement to the trees in there in whatever form, that it has to be covered by the amenity rate. And the biggest benefit is actually Foursquare in this respect.
And
didn't Foursquare offer to?
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. I'm pretty sure they offered to front up with money for what's going to follow on from removing the cherry trees.
Yeah, I don't know if they're looking at like fronting up that kind of money either, would have
Well,
to go back to any, but that's why that once it's clear, we can commission what's going to be.
Yeah.
But yes, they didn't say.
They will go towards paying the 2-3, the clearing.
Whatever, they were quite happy. Like they just want to contribute some sort of way, we let them know how, then.
And I think without the trees, it may be easier to do the work at the front of that shop as well.
Yeah.
You know, given, less obstruction while they're doing that work. And then, as you say, follow on, what the new store's like and how we can best fit.
For the area.
Yeah.
And if I may, through the chair, I think number 15 and 16 of the report actually just gives the idea that these are some ideas of costs associated with planter boxes.
Yeah.
As the supplier of street furniture, providing some concepts. So I don't think it's about saying this is a must do, but it's just saying these are some ideas beyond getting the trees out and the stumps ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that supports what you're saying, Michael.
Yes, it does. Basically, I think we're more or less on the same track there. What we're prepared to do is to remove the trees and in the interim, just resurface that area, which would then expose 4 Square to where they are. And sometime in the future, we may look at what needs to go to replace where the trees were.
So, are we happy to move the officer recommendation? Yeah. Moved by Tom, that Hanmer Springs Community Board removes the trees and grinds the stumps and seals over the areas where the trees are being removed. Yeah, seconded by Michael. All in favour? Right. Okay, so next on our agenda is just reviewing the annual protocols, one for snow clearance and the other for the track network. Now, I do have something I noticed here. In the snow report. So I trust that you've all read these protocols. Any comment from there? So from my perspective, for the closure of the track network, pretty much has covered all the bases. I know that we rely pretty heavily on the maintenance team to do the work of closing trails when necessary. And really grateful for that.
There's several mentions in this report of the eyesight.
Yeah.
And it isn't the eyesight anymore.
No.
It's the Hanmer Information Centre.
So that's one technical change to the. Did anybody else see anything that needs to be changed? I'm pretty happy with that. Any other discussion? Alice, Michael? Okay.
I'm happy with it.
Yeah. Okay, in that case, we approve that one. And moving on to the snow event protocols.
Do we need to move that recommendation that we approve changes?
Okay, so in that case, I move that we approve with the exception of changing from eyesight to information centre. And of course, in time, any updates of contacts that need to be made. The protocol for temporary closure of the reserves and track network.
I'll second.
Thank you, Alice. And I'll same again for the snow clearing plan review. Any comments on it?
Yeah, there was one that I wanted to do.
One that I noticed that the footpath up the west side of Conical Hill is to be cleared, but the pensioners' cottages are on the east side. And I know that we've had that discussion before about access for the pensioners out to the street. And I don't know whether that's something unofficial that's get done by the maintenance team. You might know, Chris, but.
No, well, why can't we just change from one side to the other?
Yeah.
Or both sides.
Both sides.
Both sides of Conical Hill Road.
We're doubling the cost of that now.
Yeah.
But the other thing is too, when you look at it, there's not huge numbers of movement. I think one side's enough.
Yeah.
Particularly the pensioner side is better for the sun coming around.
Yes. I agree. Just from my limited knowledge, a lot of the older people live on that side in quite Cavahoo close area. And I would say that unless there's a very good reason that we're not aware of, that it would be better if the east side of Conical Hill Road is cleared.
It also leads up to the Conical Hill too. So that's the advantage of it.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, how much would it add to the cost if we were to clear both sides of the footpath? It's not going to double the whole cost of snow clearing, but double the cost of the footpaths, yeah. How much would it add? I'd be interested to know, because I actually think that both sides should be cleared once you get down into the village. People need to access both sides.
We can ask that question.
I think the village want those sites, but going up the road, you know.
Pardon?
I think you're right. In the village, you need both sides, but once you head up the road, it's just as easy to cross the road and just do one.
That's fine. But once you get in the village, I do think it needs both.
Yes.
Yes, I'd endorse that too.
Yeah.
I think it is both sides, isn't it?
I think it was certainly both sides last time, and from memory, you know, just that small amount of snow we had a couple of weeks ago. I read through this and went, yes, they did all of that. So I'd like to maybe put a little piece in the pinky, just informing / reminding some people not to put snow out on the footpath.
Yeah.
On the road, because a lot of people would be ignorant about that.
Yeah.
Tom?
Yeah, and there is one error or one thing that I would like changing on page 47.7. And it's got the key priority roads.
Yep.
The last of the key priority roads is Jack's Pass Road, including the medical centre. And I wonder if Jack's Pass Road, including the medical centre, should go either the second or third bullet point there, that part. I think the emergency services would be correct as point 2. And then point 3, I think, should be Jack's Pass Road to include the medical centre. Then we can go on with the remainder, Chronicle Hill, St James, and then Jolly's Pass and Argonautes.
I think it was in that order because the hill suburbs tend to get more snow.
I think if you look at that, if you look at number 2, is emergency service, car park and access, which is the police station, and that, I would almost add just the medical centre.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the footpath getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so last time someone going and slip over and make themselves worse.
Yes. Yeah.
You could probably slip that into that, could you?
Okay, were you happy with that, Alice?
You're right about the higher slopes, and it was because of the slope and the slip hazard. You were right about that. But just going back to the bit about the clearing of Chronicle Hill Road, on page 8 of the document, it's got that it's only the Chronicle Hill west side. And it doesn't mention the actual centre of the village. So I do think that a bit of clarification would be useful there, whether it actually does mention the centre of the village to be cleared. If you're not going to put Chronicle Hill Road east, because basically my recollection of the Chronicle Hill Road west side was talking about right down into the centre of the village, not so much up on the slopes, but certainly I guess the slopes because of the slip hazard, but down into the village as well. Because you've got Amurie Avenue, Jack's Pass, and they're talking about all of those areas, but they haven't mentioned the centre of the village nor Chronicle Hill Road east. So I think it should be clarified.
So Chronicle Road as far as Chisholm Crescent?
Yeah, but I think the reason for the being the whole of Chronicle Hill is because of the slip hazard. You know, it's where a lot of people are going to be walking. And it's very steep up there, but then also once you get down to the village, you need to have access around the village for people as well, like the centre of the town.
Yeah, I think the east side all the way up to the entrance way, including the entrance.
Yeah, that's footpath.
That's a footpath.
Footpath.
And
Yeah,
certainly
Yeah,
both
I'm
sides.
talking.
Yeah.
I'm talking on page 8. It's talking about footpath. It's got a list of 1 to 11 about the footpath.
yeah.
Okay, page 40.
Well, I think that the order of footpath clearance, can I just ask a question? Does that mean in the event of snow, number one, we've done or number 11, so is a clinical order when it's done? Or is it just as is, whereas they make sure that, you know, because I was just looking at the emergency services, number 7, if it is a hierarchy of 1 to 11, how's that supposed to be read? Is it a hierarchy?
Well, it does say all.
It is a hierarchy. It says order of footpath clearing, so
number 7 should be up higher then.
should.
So, yeah, it's not true.
Because if you look at the school frontage, if it's heavy enough snow, there's no point clearing it, it's closed.
Exactly.
So it doesn't need to be up there, no point clearing
That's a really good point. School holidays.
Yeah.
Or, you know, if we get a big dump of snow at 10 o'clock and the kids are already in school.
Then.
Yeah. It's,
It's not going to happen with us.
No,
The teachers are going to say.
it's only when it happens over 2 or 3 days, you know, and it just keeps snowing, that's when really this kicks in.
So do we need to relook at that?
We haven't had for a while.
To relook at the order of clearing footpaths.
Yeah,
And what side of Common footpath. And make sure it includes the township. Yeah. And this one.
we also need to get.
and the east side of Conoco Hill Road.
I mean, they are done like ASAP, because
Today.
you know, that's the most likely risk of snow.
Yeah.
In the next few months.
Well, listen, should we do it now?
Yeah.
So, Madam Chair, can you just list out the things that are changed there, please?
Okay, so that Conoco Hill Road east side footpath is cleared, and that Conoco Hill Road is cleared right up to Oregon Heights, and that the health centre car park, medical centre car park and access is cleared at the same time as the emergency services centre. That's the 3 things that I've taken from that.
Thank you.
Do we move?
My other thought about this is the snow clearing plan should be reviewed in May rather than June as well.
Definitely this year.
Pardon?
Definitely this year.
So maybe number 7 just needs to go to number 2, and the others just got get dropped down. And
Yeah.
that would be the logical thing to do, isn't it? Without mucking around too much.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're transferring number 7 up to number 2, and then number 2 goes to 3, and it goes on.
Absolutely.
You could put a little hyphen something after the school frontage parking if deemed necessary. No point doing it every week.
Right, with those changes in mind, is everybody happy that we move that protocol is reviewed? Okay, mover, Tom, seconded by Chris. In favour? Against, carried. Okay.
And can we have it reviewed in May, please, for the on our action sheet?
Radio. So we have on a separate agenda fee waiver request from the darts club.
Okay. Sorry, I've been on the road and this has not been past any of the Halls Group people. I've got 2 thoughts on this though, recognising that the rugby club have and do make a huge contribution to keeping things organised around at the sports pavilion. But that's a very large fee that they're asking to have remitted. There will be good use of the pavilion and it will cost us. So this is a little bit off the top of my head, but I kind of thought maybe perhaps a partial fee waiver might be possible in terms of their recognising their contribution to the pavilion. So I don't know. I'll just leave it up to everyone else, anyone else's thoughts. That's probably mine.
Chris?
I looked at this too, and I see that the money that they're saving, they're going to give money to other groups. But I look at this as, if we waive that, it's got to be paid by someone, which is the ratepayer. Now, I don't quite think that's fair when we're giving the money away. I'm just not sure if the general ratepayer realise that it doesn't play rugby or darts. Would they want to? Probably not.
Yes, tricky one, isn't it?
It's a hard one.
5 per evening.
But I look at anything for the school, I haven't got a problem with, because it's our children.
I'm of the same view as Chris. This is not directly appreciating the general community. It's a group within the community, and it's quite a substantial refund, or rather something that
Remission.
they have to remission. Thank you, of about $6,000 from what I recall, and I think where I can support some of the others, because I can't support this one.
Stacey?
Sorry, I'm not sure if I'm actually allowed to comment on this, because it doesn't look like I'm part of the darts tournament. I don't run it. I may not think I'm both, but it is a great way of meeting other people there in other jobs. This is why many say start playing, so we meet builders and other people that we don't normally meet. So it is a good thing, and all the money, it does go to local things. I also know that the rugby club funded a whole heap of money into getting carpets and all those kind of things put in the place, keep it usable for now. I also know there's been some issues recently with double use of the pavilion, with the fitness class uses it to 6:45 and we arrive at 7. And sometimes a pump is getting out, sometimes the darts is getting in, and there was a plank put in. But we're being respectful and arriving after that. I think it'd be like, I'll be honest, they do charge us to enter, but that pays for all our savouries and those kind of things throughout the season. So we pay 14 weeks. And that's to pay for heating and everything like that as well, because it's cold during winter. But a fee waiver does a lot. And if we keep waiving all these fees, we're going to get any of this money to do anything with. You know what I mean? Like, we've got to support some community things. So I'm on the side of Alice, that we look at maybe reducing the fees. We still get some money from them, but they're still going to be making money to be able to give back to our community. So,
Alice, do you still have your hand up?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Still have your hand up. It's on your screen.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
That was from before.
Okay. And I noticed also that they've slipped in there that they're they're building up a fund to look at the design of the new sports centre. So
yeah, I wonder that too.
I think I'd like to support them and follow Alice and do some sort of partial.
Could I suggest $30 as a $30 or $35 as a partial fee then, instead of the 55 per evening?
I agree with that.
yeah.
30 or 35? Which?
Not qualified to say, Alice, but
Neither am I, I'm sorry. I'll go $30.
Good. So
Second.
comfortable with that?
Yep.
Chris, Michael?
I'm abstaining on this one.
Are you? Okay.
And that is, I would like to, the point made that it's in recognition of what the rugby club has done for the sports pavilion in terms of some of the cleaning, tidying, keeping it in order in recent times.
Yeah. That seems like a very fair decision. So Alice, would you like to move that then?
Yep, I will move that we approve a fee waiver to the extent of $30 per evening from the 55. So reduce it from $55 to $30 per evening for the Hanmer Springs Rugby Club to use the sports pavilion for the winter darts tournament on Wednesday evenings from 28th of May to 27th of August.
Do I have a seconder for that? Tom? Okay, all in favour? Aye, Michael's abstaining. Thank you very much. Okay, so the next one is also a fee waiver. From the Hanmer Springs School for the Memorial Tour. Did we do that? It's in here, in the main agenda? Oh, it's on second fee waiver, yeah. Okay, so
Madam Chair, I'm actually happy to move the recommendation, and it's in line with any of the previous remissions we have made for the Hanmer Springs School to use the Memorial Hall.
And I'd second that.
okay, all in favour? Okay, carried. Rightio.
What's that back?
Okay, the third one. Crikey, okay, so for the Alpine Winter Festival. So also for use of the lodge reserve for the festival light show.
Likewise, Madam Chair, I am happy to move that we remit this fee. It is a huge amount to remit, but we have done it in the past, and the Winter Festival is an amazing event for Hanmer. It's for all of us. But I would like it to be made clear to those involved and everyone in the community that this is the community board's contribution towards the Winter Festival of $3,400.
Is everybody happy with that?
Yes. Yeah.
It would be, I mean, I like to think that we are consistent and we did waive it last time.
Yeah.
And I do think that that light display is just such a good thing for our community, for the children. The joy that you see out there in the winter evenings is just great to behold.
The numbers of people.
The numbers are huge, and I'm very happy to do that, and yes, and to have it recorded that it's our community board.
I would actually like the organisers to make sure that they acknowledge our contribution. Yeah,
fair enough. So we can ask that. I've had a couple of calls about this from the organisers, so it's an important thing. Yeah.
I think, Madam Chair, just to really think about this, is actually the community's contribution.
Yeah.
Because it's the community's rates that are being used.
Yeah.
The waiving of the fee. So I'm not actually, when ours refers to our contribution.
Yeah.
It's not the board in itself. I mean, it's the community board supporting it, but it's not a financial.
Not coming out of our budget.
No.
So community contribution.
Yes,
I think that's just semantics. Our contribution, we are the community or representing the community. So I don't have a problem with what Judith's saying, but it's semantics in comparison to what I was saying.
Michael.
I agree with Judith actually on this one. Are we actually, the five of us or six of us, forking out the money towards it?
No, it didn't say we were.
Okay.
Okay, radio. So have we moved it? So I think Alice moved it.
Yep.
Yeah. Seconder?
Yeah.
Tom? All in favour? Aye. Carried. Okay, right, so financial report. Bradley, something. 50, thank you.
Hello, I'll share my screen so it's a little easier for everybody to follow. That come up?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so this is the report to the end of May. So there's a whole 1 month left of the financial year, or exactly a week left. So there's nothing here that sort of has been unusual for the year to date. We know we started in the amenities account, upper page 51. We started with a debt of just under $1 million. The rate money and other income is pretty much on budget for the 11 months. And then the expenditure is just listed there. And the key one is we've identified earlier in the year was the level of salary and wages that we've expended has been a lot lower than what we had budgeted for. So that's the key item there under general amenities. In the way things are going, I doubt whether we'll spend $80,000 in wages in the final month of the year, but we are, as we get to the end of the financial year, doing a detailed review to make sure all the wages from particularly the property team and the gardening team has been allocated correctly. So I I'll put a wee qualification there that it's just subject to a bit of a further deep dive to make sure we've got that information correct. And then the rest of the items paid for by the amenities account, the key variances are just in the various capital projects. So we've got $60,000 budget for the village hub, of which we spent nothing to date. We've got 31,000 in capital projects for the hall, and again, only a tiny amount's been spent to date. And then under a raft of different capital expenditure projects for reserves, the total of 57,000, we've only spent about 4,500. I know one of those we actually had done the work last year ahead of time. I think it was the ablutions block in the Pines Camp. But based on those numbers, we're sitting at a closing balance of 915,000 in debt, and certainly significantly less than the 1.2 million that we were contemplating when we set the budget.
Yeah, great.
Okay. Track Network Group numbers are there. There's about 44,000, and there is a much more detailed well, not a great more detailed, but a detailed analysis on page 55 of the report. Flicking over to page 52, the Weather Contingency Fund, we do set aside $10,000 a year for that out of the amenities rates, of which we spent none to date. So the 30,000 that we started with has just been bolstered by the $10,000. So sitting at 40,000 currently. The roadside construction account, we started the year with a debt of 80,000, where we're receiving rate money of about 37,000 for the full year, or 34,000 for the 11 months. And the expenditure that we've incurred so far, a little bit of interest, but there was 33,000 spent on the State Highway 7A project that so the balance of that account, that's pretty much eaten the rates that we've received for this year. We've got 75,000 of street lighting, which we've only spent a small amount to date. And any unspent money there, as normally will occur, we'll make sure is carried forward into the next financial year. The medical centre, started with a debt of 176,000, and we've done key capital project of $9,000. So the balance of that account sitting at 168,000. And the same with the doctor's house. We've done those extractor fans and heat pumps. So the balance of that account is sitting at 150,000. And then flicking over to a range of special funds. So we've got the development contribution funds for the township. We certainly haven't had the level of contributions received for the current financial year. There is, a number of projects that are not far away, but haven't come to a point where the DCs can be charged yet. So that balance is sort of dropped from what we had started the year with, but not to the level that we had predicted. We've got the Walkway Development Fund, so we're no longer collecting contributions for that, but the money's sitting there. There's about 13 grand there. It has been bolstered by a little bit of interest. Flicking over to page 53, we've got the Bridge Preservation Fund. So the bungee jump royalties were received in May, and they came in about $800 more than what was budgeted for. So the balance of that fund is sitting on almost 108,000. And then the tourism fund, again, and there's about the 40% of the bungee jump royalties goes into this account. So it's about $500 higher than what we had budgeted for. So that's sitting on a balance of 41,000. And then we've got the Domain Upgrade DC Fund, and again, the DCs are not as high as we had predicted, but that fund is still building. We've got the Pavilion Fund. That was just money set aside that was transferred from the contestable fund some years ago, and a little bit has been spent on the sports pavilion, but we've got about 27,000 sitting in that account to be used once in line with any specific upgrade work that we do. The contestable fund's got a balance of 71,000, and then the staff house fund getting utilised. There's about 29,000 of that fund left. Then the attachments to the appendices to the financial report, we've got the full reconciliation of the contestable fund. So the balance there is 71,000. There will be another $10,000 added to that on the 1st of July. And then, as I said, we've got the track network or the forest track group expenditure sitting with a balance of 44,000. And then finally on page 56 is just a range of projects that we had allowed for in the budget and where we are today. So out of those projects listed there, there's about 175,000 that hasn't been spent and most likely won't be spent before the end of the financial year. So there will be might be too early for your next report, but certainly the August report, there'll be a bit of a wash up where we are with all of our key projects and a decision from you folk what items need to be carried forward so we can actively allow for that in the next financial year.
Michael, sorry. No, Tom.
Didn't we agree to put money or give some money to the helipad? And in which case, which fund would that come out of?
So the message that I had just before the meeting started from Graham Evans. They have a community trust meeting today, had a meeting with the PR company over some media work around the helipad. there'll be an announcement this week on social media to the community that there'll be a helipad fundraising, and the Enduro events are going to support the helipad in their next event. And I think that, yeah, at this point in time, I think that they've mentioned to us about it, but I don't think they've formally come about fundraising for the helipad. But, you know, I'm certainly support us putting money towards it. It's a key part of infrastructure for our community.
Would we need to have a report, or how can we do that?
Well, I think.
Or could we do it? Can we do it now while we're on finance?
I don't know that there's a budget for it yet. I know it's been talked about what, you know, sort of how it's going to be constructed, but I think until they've got to the point where they need to say, okay, we're short of this money, then I think we should just hold. Yeah.
Because you may find that there will be some maintenance costs after the build, where that might be more important that the community will consider ongoing maintenance, you know, in the concept of delivering this important service. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a question, Jason. I thought we decided to move that money from the walkway fund into the track network group or somewhere.
Yeah, I wasn't, I think there was, yeah, I'm not sure whether we have a full resolution, but I stand corrected, and I'll go back through the minutes with Avril just to make sure if there had been a decision, I'll certainly make sure that that's enacted before the end of the financial year.
Thank you. I certainly remember us discussing transferring it, but I don't know if we actually moved it. So that would be good if you could follow through on that.
Michael.
Yeah, I was just wondering, going back to the helipad, have we actually seen any costings all up on this at this stage?
No. They're not asking for funding for the helipad at this stage, Michael. Just letting us know where it's at, and they're getting, you know, they're seeking funding elsewhere. And Enduro Events, who now run most of the mountain bike races, they're supporting it with their next event. I think, yeah, we'll just wait and see on that one.
So it's really for our information and
Yes.
To the benefit of our health situation that we are getting such a pad made available to us.
Yes. That it's all weather and 24-hour visibility will be very helpful, I'm sure.
Just, Jason, a question in relation to the hall's expenses, repairs and maintenance, that 11,000. Will that end up being carried forward? What was it for? Why wasn't it done?
Look, I can't guarantee that it would be carried forward. Normally, operating expenditure, we don't necessarily carry forward. It's just really around key projects. But if there is an item there that hasn't been spent but needs work to be done, yeah, there's a reason to carry it forward. I'll put a note for when we do the journey.
Yeah, it's
outlining what it is, so you can carry forward specific amounts if need be.
It's just that it's a significant amount, so I'm just wondering if there wasn't something more significant in that. That's all. So, but I do appreciate. So you're saying that all the capital expenditure in all those items and the amenities will be carried forward, won't it? Anything
if that's your desire. I mean, you know, if there is yeah, sometimes these projects there that are a good idea at the time and haven't been done and the world hasn't stopped, and we can pull that through as a savings to your amenities. But yeah, perhaps when we've got the June reports, we can analyse each component of that to make sure it is appropriate to carry it forward.
Okay, thank you.
Is there?
Michael?
Is there another one that I read about painting the roof of the hall of about 25,000 from what I recall, with a suggestion, I think from Alice, that perhaps what would be the cost to replace the roof? Are we any further on with that?
I don't think that was fine.
Was it not yours? No.
No, I think it was mine, actually.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Tom.
Yeah, just want to compare the cost of repainting or replacing, and if there's not wildly hugely different, you know, we might be better spending that a little bit more. Get a new roof.
Yes,
If that's put on the action report, action plan or action sheet, Avril, for the property team to have a look at.
Along with the 11,000 that is underspent in the hall expenses, because I'm wondering if that has something to do with it.
Yep, I'll add that. Thank you.
Was it already in there?
The roof painting.
Yeah.
Was already in there.
Any other questions for Jason regarding the financial report?
Other than the salaries and wages and the amenities expense that we discuss every year, of course, I think the report for 11 months in is a very healthy situation for the community, given what the budgeting that we've allowed for, and I'm happy to move.
Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Yeah. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. I've got one little thing, a niggle thing actually, Jason, I've noticed for quite a long time. On page 94, shade sale has got a typo on it. It gets my eyes every time I read that page.
Right. Okay. I'll try and. It's probably been wrong since
20 years.
2009.
Yeah. All righty. Okay, so we'll move on now. We've got a few discussion items. Soldiers block security.
Yeah, I just wanted to make.
That's kind of what you were discussing with, oh no, that was against about that gentleman, but yeah.
No, it was just discussing that there had been some incidents there recently and they hadn't been up or identified by the cameras.
Right.
And they had attempted to break.
How much damage or right?
They damaged the door.
Right.
I think they might even have actually been in briefly, but I think it was just raising the awareness of it. And what Stacey and I were saying is check on the cameras in the region, but also I'm aware that cameras don't always pick up the details that we want. And there was a case in the village of that happening.
Right.
And I just wondered if we can perhaps check the quality of the cameras that are on the soldiers block and that they would identify what we want them to identify. Okay. How do we, should we as the community board or should the soldiers block? Trust, I want a better word, be looking at that.
Probably the land is land. Just from the gym there too. Yeah.
And the Nui.
It's through the manager, something that we can look at in this financial year. Yeah. The pop is voluntary empty.
Yeah.
So the building is alarmed. And I can confirm that it works because I set it off this morning.
Always good to have a test.
Yeah, I certainly sprinted. But the place is absolutely locked down. So every room is pretty much got a lock on it. which made my sprint back to the alarm code proved to be quite challenging to try and remember which door I unlocked to get to them. Every little room, everything is all locked, so that if someone breaks in, without smashing the door, they're not going to get very far. So yes, there was an attempt to force entry just on one of the little rooms, but all of those doors have now been secured.
Further secured. They were already secured, but further secured.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
yes,
further
further
secured.
secured.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it is an issue. It's interesting. This is a little bit of a side issue. I've been recently approached about someone wanting to get access to do some filming in Chisholm. And it's whether there's what's that? Some sort of spiritual, kind of paranormal, whatever. And it got me thinking that in the past we've allowed people to take photographs, but all that does is actually stimulates the intrigue. And I met somebody this morning and they were telling me about an abandoned buildings website where people go in and then post pictures. So now I'm starting to think, well, actually maybe we should just stop people going in to sort of shut down this. Probably too late. Really surprised someone would want to break into soldiers because it's it's all done up. There's nothing
in there, is there?
if you're wanting the thrills of breaking into something that's old and a bit scary, and it's really well alarmed.
Even had a lot less activity at Rutherford. As I know, I walk up and down there a lot. Used to get a lot of kids in that building. We don't seem to anymore. So it's good. Took a lot of broken glass.
Yeah, and certainly the recent upgrades all through the site is, when I was there this morning, I was staggered at the number of people walking through. In fact, I let some people in and have a look at the pictures while I was in there. So I think that's helping.
Yeah.
Have more people moving around. The gym will help because there will be more activity, more people around. But yeah, the trust needs to consider cameras, but there's no cameras on any of those other buildings either. And I've had a quote, but it's really expensive. But the window bill, gosh, I haven't done a window bill, paid for new windows for ages actually, so yeah.
Good news.
Who owns the security cameras in the village now? Used to be Business Association.
I still do.
Yeah, so too.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Ross.
Yeah, it's Ross.
So I'll talk to them about camera efficacy. Yeah. Rightio. Conover Hill re-veg report, Chris.
Is this the topic that you wanted to do?
Is that the one you wanted to
Yeah, we're not scare up, never going.
carry on the way we're going?
Don't.
But we're talking about, I think what you're talking about is, we made the plan. I mean, the whole entranceway project's been a great success. I think, people talk about it.
Yeah.
And everything else that's on the list. I think were you suggesting that we need to get on with it?
And that was Tom's.
Tom was suggesting, right?
Well, it was, we actually cut down all those trees 8-9 years ago, and we haven't really done an awful lot to revegetate it, and it's still from a distance quite a scar on Conical Hill. And I was just thinking, I just wanted to resurrect this and say, can we bring this closer to the top of the pile of work that we need doing?
So, because it was at the beginning of the meeting, I've been doing a little bit of research. So this is the trust submission to the Conical Hill design process,
Yeah.
which led to the align plan. And then there is what is called the
Me too, and I was reading it the other day.
the Forest Management Program 2022 to 2023, which was approved by the Community Board in April 2022. And now I've lost my page, so it's area 3. Area management 3. And then there's a bunch of recommendations here. So I guess I've been trying to work out what's the process for reviewing this plan. If it was 2022, everything else was in to review, something to review yearly, every 3 years. Can't. It's doing something else. So I'm not sure how often that gets reviewed. But maybe it's the way forward on this is to ask the amenities team to have another look at these recommendations. Because interestingly, recommendation, second bullet point, is that nature be left to take its course on the lower section, previously clear fell and planted in natives. Eventually, the exotic species will push through. Progress on this will be reviewed in conjunction with the plan. And then the pines that are obscuring the view from the lookout being reduced or removed. That was what Chris was talking about when I came back into the room. I'm just not sure. So those recommendations are there in that plan.
So it's a matter of, particularly, that I think the real area of concern is that area number 3 on the map. Is can we get something done or progress on that so that it isn't such a scar on Conical Hill from a distance?
That's not the right report. No, that's not the right one.
Oh, it's not the right one? Where can I
Is that where the selective logging became clear felling?
It's such a scar.
Is that the forest management?
Pine trees then.
So I think, are you raising that recommendation and those actions, you want those reviewed? What are you asking for?
I've discovered that this report been around for a long time, longer than I've been on here, and I've never taken a decision on it. The report is there, the action is there. How do we go about making that a greater priority and starting work on that? To improve the visual amenity of Conical Hill from that direction.
It has been planted in Kānuka, but the invasive weeds are taking over. But some of the Kānuka in there is several metres high, is it? So I'd probably suggest that you either leave it and let it go back to a mess, or you let the Kānuka grow by removing the weeds. You've sort of got 2 choices.
So removing the weeds would encourage
the Kānuka to grow, and in time they will grow. The problem is if you leave the exotics, they grow about 10 times higher. So they will wipe out the Kānuka that's been planted there.
So therefore, let's do some.
I would say if council went to the trouble of putting in Kānuka some time ago, let's try and keep it in Kānuka.
Yeah, well, that's the habitat anyway, isn't it?
Yep.
So that'll be maintenance of that area by weeding, and protecting those Kānuka trees.
Yeah. And there's other native growing in there by themselves the other day.
Jude, does that come out of the amenities budget, maintenance for that area?
Sorry, I'm a bit out of how all this works now, to be honest.
So that's manual.
Yeah, manual.
As opposed to chemical.
Yeah, all manual.
Manual.
I think that way forward practices that's forest management plan being put on next month's agenda. And then you ask for communities team to bring back for review.
Yeah.
And you can have a look at all these recommendations and ask, I don't know how this work is being funded. Because there's a whole series of recommendations all the way through. And
Is it, Madam Chair, is it part of the Conical Hill Reserve? That area? Is it
Yes.
not?
Yes.
Yes.
Which is a district reserve.
Yes.
Therefore funded by the district.
That's my understanding.
Very good.
So we'll bring that back
I
to the
don't know.
next.
Is if it's funded by the district, you're at the mercy of decisions of the district. Would come to council through the chair.
Yeah.
It'll just be how it's going to budget it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is all about some area.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I couldn't hear that. Sorry.
So if it's a district reserve, it's funded by the council, therefore it's a council decision, but we'll look into it. Is that what you're saying?
But
Yeah, I'm aware that the community board have funded work on Conical Hill.
Yeah.
I think the ramp that initially was funded by the community board.
It was.
Yeah, so it's, yeah, I don't actually, I haven't managed this area for quite some time. I don't actually know how it sort of operates. But I think that the plan, this plan, if it was adopted in April 2022, that's over 3 years ago, then I think you're entitled to ask for it to be reviewed.
Yep.
And it gives you an opportunity to look at all of these areas and these recommendations and say, 3 years on, are they still appropriate?
Yeah.
And then ask the question, how's this work been funded? I don't know.
Thank you.
so do you want a recommendation in that along those lines?
Yeah,
I think that's
a good idea.
Okay, I'll recommend that the Conical Hill revegetation plan be, or Conical Hill Reserve landscape concept plan be reviewed, and that we look at how that will be funded. Those recommendations in that plan, how they will be reviewed and funded.
So that'll be next month. Okay. Yeah.
To need a second. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to support for the Winter Festival.
Are we all in favour?
Have we voted on it?
Yeah.
All in favour? Aye.
Yeah.
Just in relation to, can I ask Chris, I received something this morning on my email. Was that from you, Chris, or was that something to do with Conical Hill and the entranceway?
No,
There was a map of the entranceway that came from Avril, maybe.
Yeah, no, I didn't. It was just a submission I put in years ago on what we were discussing. So my point hasn't changed since then.
Okay, that's what I want to know. So that was the submission that you'd put in.
So I guess it's just a discussion if this Winter Festival support organisers come to us cap in hand for some financial support. Is that a discussion, how we feel about that? I mean, don't think
You mean how the community can contribute to the success of the event?
Yes.
Sorry, Judith, sorry.
Well, I was thinking you've opened the a can of worms. Interestingly, Lodge Reserve and Avenue Reserve are district reserves. Yes. So you might want to say that the district is the whatever we were talking about.
Yeah.
But that would mean just being.
Yeah. Madam Chair, I'm sorry, can Judith come to the table, please? Because for those of us who are on Zoom, I know I can't hear.
She can't hear me.
I'd have to say, I'm in the same
Okay,
situation.
move on. Okay, so look,
Madam
Tom,
Chair,
did you-
Michael has just said that he can't hear either. It would be appreciated
If she came to the table.
Judith could come to the table, please.
Yeah, if I've got.
Yeah. If she's got something to add later, that was just a frivolous aside and not worth recording.
Thanks, Mary.
Yeah, the Winter Festival support, I just wanted to put that on.
Yeah.
Because the next meeting will be after the Winter Festival, and it was like sort of getting ourselves prepared. Do they need any help and support? Well, they have come to us with that one proposal. It's just being ready and able and willing, and just saying that, you know, we're behind you. If anything goes pear-shaped or you do need anything, it was just, I didn't want to, I hate doing stuff retrospectively.
Yeah.
It's like being prepared, not doing it after the event and suddenly saying, no, we're 20,000 short, can we help?
From Dawn, come with that.
But on the other hand, it is our event and a district event. And yeah.
Fabulous job. I support them out of the tourism fund.
Yeah.
If they were to ask.
Yeah, we just gotta support this and make it clear that we support it, I think.
Well, maybe through the chair, maybe Madam Mayor.
Not the first time.
No, maybe it's a letter of support from the community board to say this is a fantastic event and we really look forward to supporting it in any way we can.
Yeah.
You know, say congratulations, and you know, it's always some, if you offer that in a proactive manner, they might be willing to receive the voice of.
We don't know. They might be pulling the hair out as we speak.
Yes.
And maybe, Judith, we need a district support as well.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, thank you very much, Evan.
I'm going to get a bit early on Saturday morning to do that, actually.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I really think that in future, when we've got people on Zoom, that people should be sitting at the table. I mean, if they're not part of the community board and wish it to be shown, we could have a notice saying that it's staff as opposed to board members, but we're really missing out on quite a bit of the conversation when we're on Zoom. I mean, I'm taking hours out of my holiday to make sure that I am part of the community board meeting and that I am keeping up with my responsibilities. And I just really appreciate it if we could actually be part of the meeting.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I would endorse that too. What we're hearing is somewhat distorted, particularly in that corner where Judith is and so forth. If they were at the table, it would make a big difference. And also, one of the difficulties with Zoom is that you don't pick up the body language that you do as being there in person. So it would be useful if everybody was clearly visible.
Point taken. So if there's comment required from council staff, we'll ask them if appropriate to come and sit up at the table at that time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Rightio. Correspondence inwards from the we do have that landscape concept. didn't realise that. We have correspondence and what's, from a report from the, Heritage Forest AGM. They're pretty early on in the AGM season this year to get this done. I think because Ros is away. Take that as read. Is there any questions from that? Pretty dedicated.
No,
Group.
but it's really fantastic, the new sculptures that they've put there, so they deserve thanks for that. Really good job done. It's definitely one of the biggest attractions when people are just wanting things to do around, you know, like the top 10 things to do around Hanmer.
Also, I think if Ros is standing back now as chair, that we should acknowledge her particularly for all the good work that she's done over these years in driving the work that they do.
Absolutely. She's back on the board though. I'm not quite sure if she's a chair, but she's election of trust board, Ros Clayton.
Yeah, that's who I'm speaking of. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think she's stepped down.
I misunderstood that then. I thought she was stepping back from it.
No, I don't think so. And that's from my conversations with her.
And it also says in the report that Ros is on the board for another 12 months.
Yeah. And general business. So I think you saw that Rayoni have sold their shares in Matariki Forest to Rowe Harton Group. As far we were told at Track Network that not to expect any changes in staffing at this point in time. So no, that's a good thing. Anyway.
Sorry, just as a correction, if I was wrong in what I said, then I'd ask that it not be minuted.
Yeah. Radio. So moving on to the action sheets. Then on page 77. So it's my intention that this hub signage project is completed in the spring, and I've made the necessary inquiries, but we did discuss a proposed new site that the Chief Executive Officer suggested near the health centre on the bend of Jacks Pass Road. I just need to know that the board supports that. So the reason for that, we've always been talking about the village hub signage and information kiosk, for want of a better word, would be on the village green. But the problem with that is that then you're going to get a lot of people congregating on the village green, probably with mountain bikes. And that was there a better location for it? So we have a hub out at Jolly's Pass, the entrance to the Heritage Forest and the track network from that side. And it was Hamish suggested that we look at this other location. So obviously, you know, I want to get ahead and get the planning side done, and to get this built for this coming season. Do we have the board's support for that?
To have it on the corner of Lucas Lane? Yes.
And that's not quite on the corner of Lucas Lane, is it?
Yeah.
Just at the bottom of the driveway of number 61.
Yeah.
68, yeah.
Solid correct.
Yeah.
So we're still going to have in the village green, small sign saying left and right, east and west entrances, or we go straight east and west and nothing in the middle.
I think we definitely need signage, but in terms of like the maps and the information hub, are we happy to move that out? I think we definitely need an indication in the centre of the village. Information hub this way, Jolly's Pass, information hub that way, Jack's Pass.
Yeah.
So that way they're needing.
Yeah.
I've never been greatly enthused by going down to Lucas Lane because I don't think it's any longer in the centre of the town. So if it does go, the hub does go into that direction, then the village square should be used with good, clear signage as to where people find tracks and so forth.
Madam Chair, I would agree with that. I don't mind the idea of having the bike hub where the mountain bikers meet at Lucas Lane. I think that's a good idea rather than having it on the village green. But I like what Michael is saying about the track information and where to meet and where all these hubs are. I think that's a good idea. But I'm just wondering, what will this mean to the funding, this amount of money that we've got sitting there for the hub project? Because we were also talking about making some changes to the village green, some improvements to the village green. I've had somebody else approach me, and that only came through as a message this morning. I have asked them to contact either yourself, Mary, or Tom about their idea, but it's to do with any renovation we do to the village green. So, yeah, I'd like to know that there's still funding to do some work on the village green. But yes, going back to your original question, I am happy that the actual mountain bike hub is out at Lucas Lane, so long as there's some directions to get there.
Yeah, and it's not only for mountain bikers too.
Yeah.
The other reason was
Walking.
it's also for horse riders
Oh, yeah.
and walkers, and you don't want horses going on the village green, to tell you that.
Yep.
So
Great. Excellent.
Okay, so I'll get on with that and come back to hopefully next month with a set plan. I need to obviously talk to council staff and the contractor.
And a rough design of what the wording you want. A bit early for that,
The wording for the signage on the village green.
on both, yeah.
Yeah, and some discussion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely, everything. Yeah.
Discussion on the funding.
And I
as
also
well.
need to talk to Mark Ingalls about it because it's his project initially. Yeah. Yeah.
Just a quick question. Well, so Michael's hand up.
Yeah.
Michael, did you have your hand up?
He's on mute. Michael's on mute.
About that. Yeah, just on that, finishing up on the village green, the funding that we've put towards the hub has been substantially increased, I think.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we need to make sure that that sum of money will cover both in terms of the good signage on the village green plus the hub, wherever it might go.
Yep. We may have some tourism funding, of course, too.
Yeah.
Will there be any objection from the house owner there about that being a hub right in front of their house?
Well, obviously that's something I need to cover,
The big rock trees in front of.
Yeah.
but it is council land.
They'll never see it.
No.
Rightio, action sheet. New street light installations, I think that was waiting for subdivision finish.
Yeah.
And definitely that money should be carried forward.
Yeah.
If it's not used.
Yeah. Okay, item number 3.
Through the chair, I think the Rippingille Road lighting has been done and they're just waiting.
It has, yeah. Item number 4. Okay. I have had a meeting down there with Hurunui natives, and he is going to plant. We agreed on the line of the bed and planting it all in tussocks, more appropriate tussocks, hardier native silver tussocks. So I guess that is just, that'll happen when he's able to do it. So he's the contractor that's going to be doing it.
They're going to fill in the potholes for as many as me.
The potholes.
Yeah, the muddy puddles.
The one you
That just in front of where the beautified everything,
Yeah.
which was some of the bits that made it look. I know after time, this is what these is designed to do, to stop them from being created again.
Yeah.
So do we just have to put up with them until stuff naturally fills them up and people don't park there anymore? So I thought
I think they should be.
with the gravel and pack up the potholes, the grooves.
Okay, I think we should let the planting be done, and it is an EZTA thing, so the droop of the tussock's not allowed to be closer than 1 metre from the road.
Yeah.
So that determines the type of
Like
plant.
that started there, right?
Yeah. And then see what happens from there.
Okay.
But I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still
It
there.
was so good to have that looking good again.
Yes.
Okay, item 5. Work in progress.
Yeah, we tried to organise a meeting before I went away, but it was just not enough time. So sorry, that will happen after.
I liked the idea of suitable war memorial being part of a project for that group.
Hmm.
It's the sort of thing the contestable funds for, perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay, item 6. Northern side of Conical Hill Lookout. Anything that we should know about that, Chris? I think that the trust has been given some land, hasn't it, from Irania
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for planting.
for planting. And does the trust is going to finance that planting?
Yeah.
Right. Fabulous.
Well done.
Well, you can actually fork out $11,000.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know who put them on it. It's turned up.
Say that again, Chris?
Pretty good day. Oh, he ain't got hold of me. They rang me up and said, oh, look, we heard you doing some stuff. Yeah, okay. But how do you know about this? Wasn't saying. They came up, looked at the wetland. I said, you start property, no, won't you start there? They've already paid 11,000 for it. But it's sitting in the.
Great. Yeah.
It's pretty easy.
Hanmer Heritage Forest, I have ongoing conversations with Pauline. So Pauline's no longer on the trust, but she has not let go of that, that project, that the community should own that forest. So she's been overseas, but we have regular catch-ups about that. At least I think it's just a work in progress. Okay, number 8.
We shouldn't lose sight of it. That's for sure, for certain.
Oh, no, we definitely shouldn't lose sight of
No.
that.
No.
Okay, item 9.
8.
Tom, anything we need to know about that?
No, I think we will make it part of, I'm hoping that we'll agree that it'll be part of the legacy project, and I think we really do need a champion for that cause that we would throw our weight behind.
Hmm.
Item 10 we've talked about today. Item 11. That's a work in progress, isn't it?
Hmm.
Still people camping down there at this time of year.
Yeah.
Hardy souls that they are.
It's the same as camping in Tasmania.
Oh, you're in a caravan.
We
Right.
certainly are in a camper.
Right, gee. Item 12, right. This is what you were talking about before.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll get a report on that when it's timely. And review items, so we've done that, done number 1. That's all in hand. Students, is there anything you know about this that we need to address? And item 4, yeah, they will hopefully where that's all cleared up by spring. Okay. Any other business? Right. The that was just me bringing up about the information about fundraising for the helipad. So they're not asking for any money at this point in time. And it's a happening thing, and the community trust are having a meeting about it tonight. Anybody else have thought of anything else we need to discuss?
I'd like to get my hard copy sent through with the long weekend, Matariki this weekend last. Nothing's turned up.
I arrived first thing this morning.
And I had to print out all 90 pages or so of the thing on my printer that won't print double-sided. But that's okay. I'm willing to do this. Hey, Madam Chair,
Yes.
I do have one question on page 89 there about the contestable fund. I see that there's been changes made to it and the West Ward has lost by about $6,000. I can sort of understand what they're saying about population, but I really, really want to make the point that I think just solely on population is a very unfair allocation. And to me, it's a little akin to the old days when ratepayers were the only ones who could vote. And if you didn't own something that you were paying rates on, you couldn't vote. But in terms of this West Ward funding, I mean, that Hanmer Springs has, like, we accommodate a huge influx of people, and many of them are visitors from the Huranui who are benefiting from what we have to do. It costs us a lot of money to keep our reserves going, keep our facilities there for the number of visitors that we have, and to be an attractive place that actually then does give back a lot to the Huranui. I think the allocation shouldn't solely be on population. It should have some aspect of what actually needs to be done within the Huranui. You know, how many people use these reserves and what they give back to the communities, to the whole of the Huranui. So that's just my comment on that. I really think that population only is an unfair basis.
Thank you, Alice.
Alice, if you look very carefully at that page and you see the figures there in the 24,000 for West and 30,000 what we used to get, if you look at the resolution underneath those three figures, it says the council resolved to retain the status quo for East and West, but agreed to increase South. So in actual fact, East and West get the amounts that are on there, 30,000 and 20,000. So our amount wasn't cut.
Thank you. I clearly didn't read that well.
That's because you're
Yeah.
right. Is there anything that we need to know, Mary, from those council updates?
Maybe if I may, let's not just look at the council update, the submissions. This was prior to Huranui District Council making its decision around the joint water services CCO.
Yeah.
So this paper here from April was prior to having the hearings and deliberations. So you've probably read through the media that we've stepped through that process. Kaikoura had their meeting the day after us, and so they have also, by majority vote, declared their willingness to have a joint water services CCO with the Huranui District Council. So that's where it's sitting at the moment. That's only, this is an enormous piece of work, don't get me wrong, it's a huge burden, I guess, for Tom and I and our fellow councillors to work our way through this process, but that is where the decision has been set at this stage. You probably followed it with interest up and down the country, but just a stat that you may be interested in that came out last week, 69% of councils up and down New Zealand have determined that a joint CCO or a single CCO is the preferred option for their district going forward. Just on balance up and down the country, because it's, it certainly will change what we do and how we do things, but we're not alone in that, and 69% of other councils have made the same decision similar to ourselves, but based on their own understanding of the community that they're serving. So this is, whilst this is an April report, there's quite a lot of work been done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What a fraught thing that was, the whole thing, and it's certainly made me appreciate the quality of service we receive here in Haranui.
Yeah.
It's great.
Madam Chair, I would agree with that. I think it will provide a lot more consistency. I look back to the older days of council, going back 20, 25 years, where some communities refused to put any money and effort into their water supplies while others did. And then when it was all put together, everyone has had to contribute to bring everything up to speed. So I think it will provide a lot more consistency. I guess my only worry out of it is how much a community will have, how much say they will have in what happens in their community, or how much information and feedback they'll get, how we'll get feedback about our water supplies when changes are being made. I'd like there to be something that we get some feedback, we get to know what's happening before it's happening.
Just if I might answer that, hopefully give confidence to you, Alice. Hopefully you can hear me. The assets are still owned by the Haranui district, or the ratepayers of the Haranui district, and so it'll be like any other CCO. It will have a memorandum of understanding with the company, and they will need to report against their objectives or KPIs, I guess, on a maybe 6 monthly, if not, or yearly, but if not 6 monthly basis. So there will be, should be always a connection back to the community that we are serving.
So I imagine that that's a decision around scale of financial viability, combining with
Yeah, and I think Alice was asking about, capital expenditure, those sorts of things. I mean, those sorts of details, I can't even answer those questions at this point, but on the assumption that there is still a strong dotted line to the owners of the assets is really important piece to hold on to, because that's where we need to make sure that that linkage back is a natural, and just as any other CCO would have. There would be a reporting mechanism.
Yeah. No, my concern wasn't about specific projects or capital as such. It's just information feedback between what's happening for the community.
Thank you.
But thank you. Thanks, Mari.
No worries.
Okay. Was there any other urgent business that anybody wanted to bring up that didn't get here earlier? Okay, in that case, I declare the meeting closed. 3:03. Thank you very much. Time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye. See you on holiday.
Yep.
Stay warm.